Hello and a very warm welcome to yet another edition of The Real Talk. We're so honored to have you spare some time to catch up with our latest story and our latest guest. My name is Jackie Lumbasi. It is a pleasure to host this conversation coming to you from Mythos Boutique Hotel in Kiyovu. Our guest is an amazing man. He's an educator, he's a father, he's a songwriter and an author. Claver Irakoze, it is a pleasure to have you on the show, Claver.
Thank you for having me.
Transmitting Memories in Rwanda, we saw the successful launch, and when you and I were talking, you say you didn't write this book specifically for survivors. The story is your story, a survivor of the genocide against the Tutsi, somebody that was raised by the community because you didn't have parents. But today you carry a burden. You are passionate about parenting, particularly in a post-genocide context. And we've tackled different aspects of life that were affected by the genocide. Why do you think we should be talking about this now?
Because for me, it is the right time. 29 years later, a lot has happened. The country has rebuilt economically, socially. You know, back then it was completely destroyed. And in the aftermath and in a few years later, we had a lot that was taking people's attention. I'm talking about Gacaca courts, which were there for 10 years. Before then, we had insecurity because of the Abacengezi war that was ravaging a few parts of the country. But today, we have come to a point where we say, Rwanda we want. And so that hope, and by the way, those who were kids like me are now fathers and mothers. So hope is there. And now, for me, I feel like it is the right time to be talking about the next generation. These kids we are having, what are we giving them? And it becomes in the subject you're introducing, parenting. Parenting means shaping, meaning telling them who you are. You, the person responsible of their life until they become mature and take on their life.
And their own direction.
Exactly. So we've been busy trying to recover, and it's an ongoing process. But let's pause and now think about how do we sustain what you have done so far. And sustainability will come from this young generation that has to be educated, that has to be told about this traumatic past we went through, and transmitting memories in Rwanda, though underneath it says from a survivor parent to the next generation. It is a book for every parent, not only Rwandan parents, but also parents beyond Rwanda who might be going through difficult times. What I tell parents in general and survivors in particular is first and foremost to recognize their role as parents. This role that cannot be undertaken by someone else properly. Once we understand the role we carry as parents, then it motivates us to go beyond our pain and our wounds and tackle sensitive matters like talking about a traumatic past. Why is it important? Because who we are, or what we believe we are, and what we do on a daily basis is what is inherited by our kids, by our children. And that is what kids will remember when they become parents. So that responsibility, that role of shaping little minds, little hearts, knowing that we are doing it in a very unprecedented period, post-genocide, gave me courage to speak out. Because the reality is many are still traumatized. Many would say it was so heavy, very traumatizing. Why should I go back and even relieve the pain, the hardship, and bring it to my kids? But what I'm suggesting with this book is not being in front of our children to recount our traumas. No. I'm simply saying we have to understand the responsibility, our role as parents in shaping these minds, and knowing that we are doing it in post-genocide, we have to be very careful not to harm or to minimize the trauma we carry. Because not doing so also brings in trauma and different kind of mental issues, because silence itself speaks a volume. Yeah. And allow me to go beyond those who survived the genocide. They have their particular stories. They have horrific memories they recall when they think about their past. But on the other side, you also have those who are parenting today, who were children younger than me or same age as myself. I was 11, who remember their parents carrying machetes and clubs and all sorts of traditional weapons and guns, going to kill every day. And some of these children were even mobilized to come and see, to witness. And those who were lucky enough to survive that terror and be sent to recollection centers like the famous Gitagata in the south, still have those memories. And today they are parents themselves. So what are they giving in terms of manners, in terms of memories, in terms of behavior to their children? So I wanted to raise awareness about this important topic, because these young ones will outlive us and they will take care of us when we become older. So, and they will lead the country, and they will have children as well. So what kind of legacy are we preparing?
Claver, we are a society that finds it even difficult to have a child-parent chat about sex. We come from homes where we don't talk about death, you know? Not even homes. As a society, we shun that topic. We don't want to touch on it. How does a parent sit with their children and have this conversation with them? What would be a proper setting? What would be a proper way of talking to your young ones about this?
I think we need to challenge that myth that our own children should learn things from outside, while we are there to shape them, to explain. We bring them in this world, and then we fail to enlighten them. It's a failure. So let's challenge that. For that to happen, parents have to realize that it is a must. Because if the story gets told by someone else, we lose control.
It could be distorted.
It could be distorted, but it also sends a negative message to me, because do you think they will take the courage to explain those sensitive matters to their children? No. So we can break that cycle and accept to be brave parents who can, firmly stand and say, we have to have this conversation. But back to your question, it requires us to establish strong connections, relationship with these
children.
Exactly. So that they are able to speak to us. You know, children are very, very clever. Let me use that term. They will never, ever give you their heart if you are not there. Presence. Presence.
Presence is important.
You have to be connected. So if you are a parent that wakes up in the morning and go to work without saying good morning, without checking on them, and they go on bed without saying a prayer together and say, I love you, sleep well, do you think you will be able to come and talk about these sensitive matters? No. So we have to be there, we have to establish connection, we have to know them, because they are all our kids, but they are different emotionally, their eagerness to learn and all that. So we have to know them, and we have to be there with them.
I wonder, Claver, is it easy to transfer memories between generations without necessarily transferring the trauma?
As a Rwandan, it's quite difficult to say transferring memories or transmitting memories without trauma. We are rather trying to minimize this trauma we carry. Why? Because you can do your best, but think about parents like me who survived and still have physical wounds, the scars on their bodies. You may try to do your best to tell the story and to be positive about life after the genocide and what you wish your kids can pick from your story. But you will never miss to tell them that your arm was cut off, that your leg is not there, that your head was almost removed.
They can see it.
Yeah.
If the arm is missing, they can see it's not there.
These are visible evidence. Plus the genocide landmarks across the country. We have memorials everywhere. So there is your personal story that has to fit into the context of a country that was completely destroyed. So when we tell our stories of the past, or when we, let me say, filter and bring out these memories to our young ones, we do it, it's a journey. It becomes life, everyday life. Everyday conversation, everyday moment sets up an entry point to us transmitting memories to our kids. And so we have to be very careful not transmitting real traumas we carry. We have to do our best to minimize, but I cannot guarantee that trauma will not be there, because yes, we tell the story, we are there to comfort them and say it will never happen again, but they also have their brains and they feel, they have their emotions, so they process the information we give them, and our hope is to do it in a way that is balanced, in a way that is supported by our presence, by our comfort, but it's hard to say there will be no trauma at all. Let me put this in the context. We never had a parenting center before in Rwanda, never ever, because the nuclear family, the community alone was that school the West has, the parenting center in the West. That's why many things were learned at aunties, uncles, during holidays. Genocide destroyed that social fabric, where every elder was a parent to you, to me. It did not matter whether it was my father or mother in front of me to get punished for the wrong I was doing. But today it is hard. Why? Because trust in people was destroyed by the genocide. If I come forward and try to correct, to punish your child, maybe you will interpret it in the lens of who is this,
Yeah.
you know, trying to do
Who
this?
are you to touch my child?
And many may even fear to do so because of that burden they carry, because of that situation we know that you have gone through.
And that is so true. And you can
Yes.
see the effect of that. You can also see the generational difference between the people that were raised by the village and the people that today are strictly raised by their parents.
And that is causing more harm because we are leaving people to do nonsense in front of our eyes, and we are witnesses. We take our smartphones to, you know,
Even take pictures
to take
of
pictures
the very
and
wrong
videos
things they're doing.
instead of correcting. So we have to be very courageous to tackle these issues. But where I wanted to go is the social fabric was destroyed. And part of the recovery and the rebuilding process of Rwanda is re-establishing these good frameworks we had. But I also feel like we need also to accept that we need to learn how to parent, how to be parents, how to become better parents. And therefore,
where do we go to learn this?
and therefore, we've got to consume or to consult. There is a science behind, because parenting means you have to understand the psychology of a child. You know, how a child thinks, how a child grows up, and all that. So there is knowledge involved. And I think we can take advantage of being in a digital era where really good content can be at our hand anytime with these smartphones, and use these smartphones to feed our brain, and from there we can try to be better and do better. So before the genocide, culturally we learned many things from our parents, from our elders. This time those elders are very few. The trust and the destruction of the past as well has caused some sort of doubt in us to cope everything we see from the community. And there comes in the courage of getting out and study and read. I do read few books, I watch videos, they are there, that talk about best practices. But at the end of the day, remember something. Our children are different, emotionally, mentally. And so knowing that becomes step one to address issues we have or issues we might have with them.
What I hear you say is intentional parenting.
Intentional parenting. Thank you for the word. Intentional parenting.
Yes.
We have to be intentional. We have to be... People will tell you, many parents will come out and say, parenting is very hard. It is too demanding. Yes, it is. But it is also rewarding. And here comes actually the wake-up call to say, you better get prepared before you decide to have kids, right? Because you are not bringing them here to misguide them, you know, to leave them hanging in this world full of many things. So they need our presence, they need to be enlightened, they need to be guided, they need to be loved. And we sometimes confuse loving our kids and giving them, spoiling them with materials. If you raise your kids with materials, gadgets and all that, thinking that you are loving them, it's completely wrong.
And the people that we are talking about today, the survivor parents, are, you know, at risk of doing that because they were denied a lot of things. So today, having grown up, they have good jobs, they've got access to means, they might be tempted to spoil their children because, after all, we want to give what we didn't get. So how does a parent ensure that they're not overdoing it? How does a parent make sure that they're not just providing the material, but they are there physically, emotionally, that the children are seeing them, you know, as opposed to seeing their money.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because I believe those who will watch this talk will understand, and maybe they will learn something. But I'm also glad that in this country of ours we have many parts trying to do something about this topic. I'm talking about religious people, you know, pastors, priests, who are trying to come back to this central element, family, and try to feed us with some good content and wake-up calls. So to parents who are confusing materials, money, and proper education, family education, I think it is time to pause and reflect. Is this working? Will it work for long? Because the say is, family is the best school. You go to school, you learn new things, knowledge, science, math, and all that, but manners, or how you use the knowledge you are getting from school, is something you learn from home.
The actual learning happens at home.
The actual learning happens at home. So these homes have to be providing intentional parenting. And now, the very difficult situation we are in is we are asking to be intentional parents to people who were not raised by parents, to people who don't have role models. Because parenting means, being a father or a mother means you are a role model to someone, you know. Someone will want to become a father you are today to his kids, a mother you are to his, to his kids. So if we understand that what we are doing today, the life we live with our children, will have a greater impact on their lives and the lives of another generation, then we have to come back and invest in us, learning new things, getting knowledge, educated about how this whole work should be done, and therefore change some of the bad habits we have. Maybe we don't know they are bad, but yeah, we have to always question these things we do with our children. And by the way, we are losing because some of us are sending children in the best schools, and best schools are, you know, very expensive. So we are investing a lot of money
in
but
that.
At the same time, we are not there. We are distant. So in the end, we will lose because money will have gone, and without our presence and proper guidance and conversation and negotiation to some extent, because you have to negotiate to some extent for them to understand that there is a role to play by themselves. Because kids, they are not static, they are dynamic. Today, my firstborn is 11, next year she will be 12. Conversation has to evolve. And it should evolve around her becoming also responsible to take on her own life, you see. So negotiation comes in to make sure that it is not also a kind of dictatorship, a kind of I say this, do that. No, that is likely what they will pass on if we don't pay attention. And therefore, in this digital era where you have to explain why after school there is no TV because the next morning she's going to be at school for 8 hours, has to be discussed.
Negotiation.
A negotiation has to come in to say, if you do this, maybe on Saturday and Sunday we'll have 1 hour with your gadget and TV.
I think I'm a very bad parent. I'm quite liberal. I don't have those negotiations. Probably I am spoiling my child, but I hope not. And you know, as you said...
Spoiling and loving are two different things. I hope you love them.
I love them, but maybe to the point of spoiling them. That's a bad thing, eh?
So try to balance.
I'll do that. And you know, Claver, you said it well. We might spend a lot of money on educating them. And eventually, because we are absent, we will lose the money and lose the children. That's it. We're happy to have you with us on The Real Talk on RTV. Please talk to us. You have a question, you've got a comment. Claver Irakoze is on the different social media platforms. If you put a question and use the hashtag The Real Talk, he will respond to it. Would love you to participate in the program. Please do so. We are coming to you from Mythos Boutique Hotel in Kiyovu. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Talk on RTV. Our guest is Claver Irakoze, and we do welcome your questions and comments. The reason we have this program and the reason we bring you these great people is for you to learn a thing or two from them, because nothing happens to us in vain. I like to say that everything that happens to you, whether it's good or bad, is intended for you to learn, or a lesson for yourself, or a lesson that you will pass on to another person. So hence the reason we have The Real Talk. We do hope that it's going to cause a transformation in your life. Claver, you witnessed a helpless parent. No child, you know, should go through that. Now, how do you build self-confidence? How do you empower yourself to the level that you are able to stand tall, protect your children, but also ensure that they see you as that safe haven, as that powerful and, you know, dad, powerful dad that they can run to when they need you? Because you saw your father at the worst. You said he couldn't even wave at you goodbye. How do you come from a place like that?
It takes a lot of courage to understand what that past was, really. And for that, I insist that we accept to learn. We were there when the genocide was being committed. We were hunted like animals. Others of our age being called to, you know, to witness the horror. But do we really understand? For me, killings are outcome of long years of discrimination and hatred, where people were taught to hate, to discriminate, to dehumanize, to demonize, and the result, you know, taking a machete or a gun to kill people, that was not the most complicated, no. It was shaped for many years by the hate, by the propaganda. And I want to come to that point where people became powerless. Our parents, our small gods, you know, our lions. Why? Because for many years they were deprived their right to be human beings. They were called snakes. They were dehumanized in many ways, to a point when the genocide came, the final solution, people were negotiating to be either shot, and for that you had to pay, or to be killed by a machete. So the victim comes to a point where dying is the only choice. And so negotiating your death becomes part of the options you have. And I remember my mother telling us to pray so that we can go to heaven. So there was no hope. No hope. And the impact of that is the doubt you carry when you become a parent yourself. But when you understand that you have to unpack this past and try to understand it in its own context, it gives you true meaning of what life should be after the genocide. Because those who perpetrate genocide, in their plan, they also want you to be silent. Those who survive, they want us to become silent. So it takes courage to speak out. And I hope people who will read these books will get inspired and speak out. So it's not really easy. But I'm here to say we can go beyond our pain and face this reality, because we cannot change the past. Whatever happened, happened. But the present and the future,
it is in our hands.
It is in our hand, and it will be sustained by the choices we are making today. If we choose to keep, silent, then, our young ones will never know who we are. We never know what we want them to be, their aspirations. They will not ask questions. They will not live properly their childhood, and therefore that will have impact in their when they become parents themselves. So courage to speak out, courage to go back in this history, unpack it, understand it, and from there say, I'm going to be a difference maker. I'm going to change, what I did not receive because of this context. I'm going to make sure that my kids get it. So it's life in itself. It's full of lessons. We learn every day, but here we are asked to learn intentionally, to bring out the best we can for our kids.
Yeah, you say in your book that I have found that investing in parenting and encouraging one another to be better for our own kids can help keep marriages together and healthy. When you have children, it's a rebirth for both parents, as the new child has to be nurtured and motivated by mutually supportive partners. This was why the myth of parenting being women's vocation has never been in my mind nor in my deeds. The reason I went to that particular paragraph is because some fathers leave that role of parenting to the women. And you find it will always be about what the woman wants for the children because the father is not there. I would love you to speak to modern parents on, and maybe just in very briefly, if you can speak to both parents on the importance of this being done mutually. As you've said, it can help keep marriages together and healthy. So the importance of this being done by the two people.
Well, I strongly believe that it has to be done by both parents, mother and father, because we are talking about shaping, and we've got to leave any confusion out of our children's minds. Confusion that might come from one parent being invested alone. And beyond being a mother, you are a wife. Beyond being a father, you are a husband, right? So it would be a sort of, it would be, for me, being selfish to leave parenting to only mothers. You already do a lot to carry them 9 months, right? You breastfeed them, and so shaping their hearts, their emotions, their mind should be done jointly. And the reason why I said it can keep or save marriage is whenever you come together for a common cause, it means you have time to discuss. You have time to learn from one another. You have time to question. You have time to motivate your partner. And therefore, if we lose that part of coming together, learning from one another, supporting, very important, supporting one another. One, we are not doing justice to our, let's say, marriage vows, and we are not doing justice to these kids who in their memories will take on an image of a mother and a father working together to raise them. This is what we talk about when we talk about transmitting memories. Transmitting memories in that book, it is not only about the genocide. It is about what we observe in a daily, in daily life. So if you have a mom and dad coming together to support you, I mean,
you will see it as a child.
It builds you. It builds you. That is what you will tell your children, that you had a mother, a father, who would even argue on, different things that were meant to, make you better. So it has to be done really in full partnership with both parents. Failure to do so will cause confrontation, will cause even some sort of distance, because maybe one parent who is not present can be absent because of a reason, but you who are present there, what are you telling your children? Are you judging the other partner for not being present? Or you are saying, I'm here. Also know that your father or mother who is not present is also here because, where he is or she is, he is working for us to, get
for the good of the family.
For the good of the family. But blame game ends up destroy everything. It destroys your family. It destroys your relationship. And there comes divorce and other bad stuff. And who loses? Children. Yeah. And because they are very little, because they are very emotional, understanding, and maybe loving to live becomes problematic.
There are parents that will be coming out of prison. Some of them have been released, others will be released as we move on. 29 years on, there are perpetrators that are coming back home. Mm-hmm. What societal challenges do you anticipate?
Acceptance. How will they be accepted in their own families? I don't know. But imagine someone who has been absent 29 years. For a known reason. This person is coming from prison because he killed people. So reuniting and getting accepted by his own people, including children who are probably today adults, who can question why you did what you did, who will ask you about the shame they carry to be coming from you as a perpetrator. It is not something we can minimize. And I think these people need also psychological support. Not only those who are coming from prisons, but also their families. They need a proper integration at the family level, but also community level. And this is where genocide becomes the worst humanity can witness. It is beyond our imagination. And killing, the fact that you have killed people, yes, you were in prison for, X numbers of time, but it doesn't completely remove that mark we have on you, that you killed people. So acceptance will be hard, and I hope there will be proper process of reintegrating them in their families, in the community. But I'm also hoping that those who were there, who were not in prison, who are going to receive these people, can also be understanding and tolerant.
And forgiving.
Forgiving and accept this chapter also to come to an end. And help them to, to become normal human beings, because they deserve and they need to be.
Yeah. It's going to be an uphill task, but it's something that we need to tackle. We should do it.
Yeah, and I hope their families can do more to help them become, properly reintegrated. Yeah.
So the internet, social media especially, is helping you parent your children. You can't keep them away from social media, but then I wonder, as somebody who has this burden and you want to make sure that the future generation is safe, that we are leaving a legacy, a positive legacy, how would you advise social media users about the content that they post? Not for yourself, but for your children's sake. Because your children will go there and they will interact with different kinds of content. What would you advise the people that use this place? Because they are posting things that will never leave the internet.
Exactly. Every single post we put on social media becomes a record for many years. It is there to stay. Your children might be not using social media today, but in 10 years they will, they will go on and see your posts. So I'm simply saying, let us be responsible. Let us use social media responsibly. Let us use social media to educate, to challenge negative narratives, and to give hope. To give hope and also to give life. Sending positive vibes.
Use social media to give hope, to give life.
Yes.
Claver, we're going to get to know you better in just a bit. This is The Real Talk on RTV. Claver, what's your favorite football club?
Real Madrid. Real Madrid. In Rwanda, Rayon Sport.
Okay. It's interesting. I thought you were going to say Arsenal. Between reading and TV, what would you go for?
Reading.
I would choose TV anytime. Then what would you go for? Between a long solo drive, say you want to relax, you want to unwind, what would you choose between a long solo drive and a long, quiet walk?
A long, quiet walk. Because it gives me an opportunity to speak to myself, to reflect, and also to remind myself that life is a precious gift that we have to take not for granted. So it is one of those moments you feel like you are connected to yourself, and we need that moment. Everyone needs that moment because out of it you get energy and sense of living.
And you're rejuvenated. Yeah. Do you have a talent that people might not know about? Something hidden.
I used to sing. Back in time.
You used to sing. Did you have a stage name?
No.
So you just called yourself Claver? No wonder you said you used to sing. Because with a name like that, you cannot be singing now.
I can't say nameless. But yeah, singing was growing up in those difficult times, singing to myself was something that really gave me energy, understanding, and pushed me to go further. So unfortunately, I did not pursue the musical career, but I still write songs. And there is one.
So you write for people?
I write for people, but
Okay.
there is actually 2 songs that I recorded in the studio. One was in 2010. It is called Des survivants mais bien vivants. It is in French. The second one is Umurage w'amateka, the legacy of history, which is pretty much the same as That Child Is Me, content-wise. And I wanted to be closer to kids again, and I wrote that song and produced a video that is accessible on YouTube, so people can now have something.
Share with us the link.
They can judge my voice, so I don't know. Yeah, but my hope is that my kids take on this talent,
the singing talent.
The singing talent, yeah.
And then, what's the best moment of your life?
The best moment of my life. The day I welcomed, the day I met my firstborn was the best moment of my life, because right there it was a sign that continuity is possible. Yeah.
And are you a hands-on or a hands-off father?
Hands-on.
What does hands-on mean in this case? Do you change diapers? Do you bathe them?
Why not? They are now bigger, so...
but you did these things when they were young, eh? When they were toddlers. Oh,
I did, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Well, look, they are the best gift life has ever given me. So why not failing to be there for them? They are our diamonds, and we have to protect them.
So you play with them, you are fully present.
I do. I try my best. Life can be hard, too demanding, but at the end of the day, there is no replacement of time that I do not spend with them. So I have to be there, and I try to be there, and my wife tries to be there. So
you don't make excuses.
There is no excuse.
I love you people. Yeah. Yes, you're great parents.
We try our best, and we hope this will be one of the memories they carry on and inherit when they become parents themselves. So, intentional parenting.
Yes. Thank you, Claver. It's been a great pleasure sitting down with you. And for you who's watching, we do hope that for sure there's some life nuggets that you've gotten from this episode of The Real Talk. Pick the book if you haven't yet gotten it. Imagine Rwanda is in charge of the distribution. You'll find it at different bookstores. This particular one is for the young ones. That Child Is Me. The font is bigger, the illustrations, quite a beautiful kiddie book. Yeah. What a pleasure it's been to have you with us on the show. Thank you so much, and a big, big thank you to Mythos Boutique Hotel in Kiyovu for hosting us. A big thank you to our guest, Claver Irakoze, and for you to make time to join us. We say a big thank you. God bless you. We will see you next week.